Everybody is a star. I can feel it when you shine on me. And I love you for who you are. Not the one you feel you need to be. 'Tis the sun that loves you. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop right there. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, my family. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Mental House. I am your host, Khadijah. And this little vlog that I'm going to do today is at the request of one of our longtime family members. And I get right up in here and have a menopausal moment because I did not write her name down. Oh, Lord. It's not Sadie. It's Sadie. It is, oh, jeez. Okay, you know who you are. You can get on my case. So I'm just going to do the video because I don't know where it's at. And actually, you were asking me to do a video on what I remember or what I know about Jim Jones from the People's Temple. And it was because of a video that I did prior to this, talking about the time that I went to the Nation of I went to the Savior's Day, which had been doing every year since I've been a kid, pretty much. And this particular time, I remember the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had passed away, and this was going to be the first time that a Caucasian man was going to be allowed into the temple, and his name was Jim Jones in the People's Temple. And what stood out about that time to me was because I had never seen that many buses. That was number one. It was like this dude had 20,000 buses that lined up on Stony. And I was like, where's all these buses coming from? And not just that, the members that came out of there, it was such a mixture of people, and that stood out in my mind. And the fact I hadn't seen Jim Jones yet, but when I saw him, this man actually, remember, coming from a town where Father Groppe led the marches for civil rights here in the 60s, and they called Milwaukee, again, Selma of the North, because a lot of y'all think Selma, Alabama was bad. Y'all slept on Cicero in Illinois, and you sleep on Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Number one race. Well, anyway, we're not going to go there. Jim Jones preached a message of justice and righteousness. And so to tell you that he was just this psychopath preaching a psychotic message would be a disservice to him. It would be a disservice to all the people that listen to his message, and it would be an out and out lie. Okay? Because the man could preach, and he reminded you of if you were a person that's been indoctrinated in church, he was like some old Baptist Southern minister. Which is incredible. He was Father Fledger times 50. Okay? So just to give you an idea. But what I remembered I remember this guy spoke when he had his white suit on, I believe, and he had his black shirt on. But what got me was he said something that just really stuck out, because I'm used to being around narcissists, because on a continuum, remember, we all have narcissistic traits, and some of them are healthy. Otherwise, how would you be able to pick up and stick up for yourself at all? But you guys know the difference when I say a person has narcissistic tendencies, or a person's a straight covert or overt or malignant narcissist. There's a total difference. Okay? And what I noticed that stood out in my mind, that he said that it was even a little bit more narcissistic than the pastors that I knew. He said, I think it was Wallace D. Muhammad. Somebody said something about an event that was going to take place further down in the summer. And he said something to the effect of, "We'll be there. All of my members, every one of them will be there. We'll show up and we'll show out." And I was like, wow, how can you make that statement? That was way back then, and I was a teenager when I first saw Jim Jones. And so this is why I'm really on red alert when I see all these young guys popping out of nowhere. You know, I've been on the planet for a little while now, and black people are so emotionally retarded, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Take it as we're innocent. We just don't know. And we need to stop putting our emotions first about everything, because everybody has studied us. And they know that's what, if you want to get anything done, you just appeal to black people's emotion. We don't care how stupid it is. We don't care if they're voting or doing something to their own worst interest. Appeal to their emotions. Give them some rap music, or give them some something that they can get emotional about, and you got them. And that's pretty bad to be identified like that. Not for your intelligence, but just for your emotional prowess. Because we are so much more than that. Okay? But we have, since we've been over here, been stuck in this emotional trauma bonding type of situation. So when we meet and encounter a person like a Jim Jones, or some of these pastors with these mega churches that are clearly manipulating the congregation, when they have jets and you don't even barely have a car. Uh, this is insanity. Or when we continue to blindly give money to schools that never pop up, or uh, buy books and all types of things, and we continue to feed these narcissistic type of personalities, when we know, for all intents and purposes, we know that there's something wrong here. But there's something in us that doesn't want us to give up on these people. I don't know if it's because psychologically we think we're protecting them from the slave master, but we're not even protecting ourselves from them, which is an even more emotionally retarded enmeshment, um, because these people are taking advantage of you, and I, regardless of our, you know, so-called loyalty to them. So, but what I can remember about Jim Jones is, again, the fact that he spoke there at that meeting was insane to me, and the fact that he was so confident that all his members would be there. But when I did a little research about him after that incident that happened November 18th, 1978, I hate that in Guyana, when 909 people, I think, died, at least on the grounds. There was a few more dead, at the airport. And they say it died in a mass suicide. But I contend it's a murder suicide, because it's very important that people understand that all those people that went there weren't any different than you or I. Especially those of us who have been indoctrinated in church, or who have been in church from our parents. Because, like I said, when you're a child, you're held hostage, and you've been indoctrinated, especially in a apostolic faith, which is real closest thing you're going to get to voodoo. And we do summon down spirits, and that's why I think that the apostolic faith was just so fascinating for a lot of people. However, nevertheless, I digress. Let me keep moving forward. Um, there's all these insane narcissistic tendencies that you see with these people at an early age, and no one calls them, and no one sets. Anytime, no one sees the red flags, they just see the end result. So I'm telling you, with Jim Jones, if you look at his family, at 5 years old, this guy was having funerals for animals. He was actually killing the animals, and that's one thing you have to always remember. A lot of them do harm to animals. Um, that's kind of like their first thing, to set animals on fire, or those are just real just do real horrible stuff, breaking heads off of little birds and things like that. But anyway, he would kill cats and have funerals for them. There's a lot, this guy kid was 5 years old doing this kind of stuff and having ceremonies. His mom worked all the time. His dad was an alcoholic. So by all intents and purposes, he's a son of an alcoholic, child of an alcoholic. Another thing that was really interesting about him um, is the fact that he was a great visionary. And the things that he envisioned actually came to pass. Unlike a lot of these guys out here, Johnny come lately, that are taking your money and not giving you anything but a pipe dream, he actually did something. But that's what also concerns me about all these leaders that talking about giving us a place of our own and somewhere where we're off, away from the rest of the society and yada yada yada. In a way, that's because of the experience and because the way we are in America, that's a ripe setting for something like Jonestown to happen all over again. Especially when you're dealing with religion and religious people. Because most of them that come and follow that stuff blindly are people that are engulfed with some type of guilt. They have a self-love deficit disorder. They don't love themselves. They're very codependent. Most people that get all off into the pastor like that and make the pastor their husband and all that, there's something missing in the inside, and they're on the inside carrying around some guilt and shame that is so heavy that they want Jesus to fix it. I get it. It's nothing. I mean, I understand. But then there's these wolves that are there and waiting and willing to take advantage of it. Okay? Because, when you're dealing with narcissism, I think that's one of the main criteria that these people look for. They look for people that are vulnerable, and they can spot them out. Just like a lion, when he's hunting on the Serengeti, and he sees a giraffe. I mean, a zebra, not sick, but vulnerable because he's sitting there by himself, away from the rest of the fray. Or the rest of the fray may be looking around, but he may have his head down, oblivious to what's going on around him. He made himself more vulnerable. So what's going to happen is that line, not because he's dumb, not because of anything, he's just vulnerable. And so the prey is going to come after him. And that's how I look at some of these ministers. Trust me, I've been around them all my life, and it doesn't matter whether it's a mosque. In my opinion, it doesn't matter if it's a church house. These characteristics from these narcissistic type of people that are in leadership, I want you to start checking out if any of this just resonates with you a little bit. And Ross Rosenberg, I talk about him a lot because that book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, I really like that book. But what he talks about is there's and you guys know how I feel about, let me just say this first, gaslighting. Because to me, to gaslight somebody is one of the worst things you can do to them. Oh God, I hate that. I know what it's like to be triangulated, to be split, where a person values you and then all of a sudden they devalue you. First, you're the greatest thing in the world since ice cream, and then all of a sudden you don't do what they want to, or a couple weeks pass, or whatever happens in their freaking mind, now you become the worst thing that ever was made. And then there's a process of valuing and devaluing, and all that's chipping away at your spirit. You don't know what's going on. You just know first they're making you feel good, putting you on cloud 9. And then little bit you chipping. Mean and nice and mean cycle is what has happened to you. The splitting. Okay? Even to be triangulated. I mean, it's horrible. All these things are horrible to do psychologically to another person. And to triangulate. You already know that's going to happen with the flying monkeys. You're always going to have the ones that agree with this person, even though they're wrong, or they're just as sick as they are. So there's no sense. So it really makes no sense to try to convince that person. You just like, these are flying monkeys. They're going to agree with everything the other person says, no matter how wicked and crazy. All right? But to me, somehow just a gaslighter. Because the, the, just the sheer wanting to please your partner or person that you're in a relationship with is like a given, and it's give and take. And you don't want to think that a person that you're willing to give yourself to is manipulating your mind and trying to drive you crazy. To me, that's some heavy crap for your behind to think about. For instance, you put these keys right here. I mean, just little subtle craziness. And I'm just gonna, say something off the top of my head, but can you imagine all kinds of incidents like this? You put your keys there, and I'm so psychotic, I move the keys. And I put the keys that you have no idea where they are. So now you running around the house looking for these keys. And you see my keys? You know where my keys are? I gotta go. And I'm really in a deep, dark spot in myself, cracking up because your ass can't find your keys. That to me is just so killing. It's killing. Ooh, it's murderous. It's murderous for a person to actually do that to you. Okay? Because enough for the living like that, enough you begin to second guess yourself. You don't know what they're doing. You begin to have no more confidence in yourself. And in some of these jobs that we have, especially like as musicians, as artists, as things, where 9.9% of your existence depends on your confidence. And when you have somebody that's purposely trying to destroy it because you have something that they possess and you don't know it, and you're being gaslit, as you can see, that is something that really disturbs me, because I feel like that is the epitome of evil. That's just my opinion. Y'all leave a link. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about that. But as I move right along here, I want you to think about all these religious narcissists, whether they're religious or they have some organization or some black power movement or white power movement. It doesn't really matter. They're highly manipulative and they make false claims. Okay? Most of them, especially if they're religious, they got to be embedded with the Holy Spirit. God told them to do something, and they just, God talks to them more exactly than He talks to you. In other words, they're like God's spokesperson or God's prophet. Prophet is this and prophet is that, and bishop and this and this and this, and no disrespect. I just got to keep it real. Omniscient. I mean, they're all knowing. They know everything. God revealed to them last night. God prophesied, put on my heart last night that you was doing X, Y, Z, and yada, yada, yada. Y'all know the routine. I've been silenced, put on so many times, and restricted in my journey through church that it caused me to look at, dissect religion in a way that I was forced to, because I couldn't believe that to worship God like I felt in my heart had anything to do with how these people were performing around me. And I knew that at an early age. They're morally pure in spirit, but everybody else is, messed up. In fact, they get a free get out of jail card every time they do something crazy. They're controlling and rigid and have severe black and white thinking. They want to control what the parishioners do. They want to make sure, they are hands-on type of pastor. And then they have this belief. Most of them are fire and brimstone type of preachers. Because we keep it in the religious vein. Either God is angry and punishing to sinners and non-believers, and then he's good and kind and loving and forgiving to the people that believe. How crazy is that? So if you don't believe what they believe, then you already are on the back end. Can you imagine how that works for a person that's already feeling not too good about themselves? Okay, that's part one. I'm gonna end it right here and come back with another little piece. Okay, hold tight, guys.